Greetings and welcome to my dear Geminis out there. This is Ron from Tarot of the Twin Sun. Tarot of the Twin Sun is a functional division within the Order of the Twin Sun. Please take only what you will. We shall be doing a reading for the third house, the energy of Gemini. This is regarding a prognosis regarding the time of December 2022. And we'll be looking into aspects of the third house, okay? Now, the 3 and the 9, the third house and the ninth house axis encompass Mercury as well as Jupiter's energy. The opposition to those two are quite real in terms of essentially the youthful energy of Mercury, of essentially Gemini, that encompasses the archetype of the student, okay? And the student requires a guru in which they can relay their own questions to. And the guru usually has absolute answers. And usually the guru is a radical agent within the strata or the order of the mind of Gemini, okay? So there's a flexibility to this axis that allows for departure. It allows for a way of relaying the questions of existence, the deeper questions of life, but then also being a student of life and trying to understand that through a relationship axis of the 3 and the 9. The interesting thing is that the people that Gemini gravitate towards have this guru principle sort of codified within them, in which the exotic or the foreign becomes known through deep reflective contemplation, okay? And by doing so, by accessing the realm of travel, okay, in these relationships, there's a mutable energy that allows for the garnering of what I would call information, okay? So knowing. The ability to know, the ability to understand something in terms of these relationships. The irony is that the people that Gemini encounter are often in some form of crisis, disintegration, and then they come to the stratification of the face of consciousness, the face of the world, the face of representation of this reality after some form of departure, some form of crisis, some form of deeper understanding, deeper knowing, deeper self-realization. So it's a very interesting dynamic in that it's a very deep quality that that is sort of substantiated through the experience of sacrifice, or the experience of some form of collective sacrifice, a collective way of seeing things, and then letting that go. This person will eventually evolve to become an emblem or an insignia, a vehicle of truth. Okay, so that's sort of what you may encounter in the month of December that may or may not exist, but we will look into the Great Mirror in order to discern what you may be dealing with in terms of someone else, in terms of a significant other. We'll also look into karma and an incident related to karma in the month of December. I'm going to get started now. Okay, so there is a pensive quality in which you may be trying to consider a voice or a way of seeing things. This has to do with um, people in general, whomever you may be dealing with, people in general. There is a period of uh, uh, peacefulness when it comes to this, but it has to do with an isolated aspect that is related to Gemini, in which you require uh, a still point or a stillness in order to meditate and perhaps glean something deeper in terms of meaning when it comes to relationships, meaning when it comes to your own thoughts, the way of thinking. In the month of December, there's a way to truly embody Gemini's energy with the Page of Swords. And this Page of Swords is looking to the past. It's looking to that which has fallen apart, okay, and how that was a part of some form of collective order, okay. Um, Usually, it has to do with the construction of something. The five of rods in the reverse, it it points to the construction of something, even though that thing that you were working with others in terms of projects or relationships, at least one or two others, there's a need to construct a home base, a need to construct some form of legacy or something that would stand the test of time. The thing is that there was difficulty in doing that, and it feels like there's not the right path with those people, okay? But what was worked on and seemed like a failure actually wasn't, okay? And in your rumination, in your still point, in your meditations, there's a possibility to find the source of what may be painful in terms of the mind, okay? In terms of the Three of Swords, in terms of the Three of Swords combined with the Page of Sword, okay? There's something about this that allows for equanimity and a balancing out of brain chemistry, even, in order to see sort of what's going on with these things that have fallen apart, that seemingly fallen apart, but are actually substantiated. They've actually left something there in terms of something that can be used or worked on. Okay, we have the movement from the 7 to the 8 of Pentacles. Okay, Pentacles, and this is indicative something that hasn't worked out, either in working with others, some form of relationship with others, something familiar even, something that's based on family. Something about that you're working hard on, you're trying to bring forward the sense of the Ace of Pentacles to carry on to the 8. There is something very strongly mercurial about December, wherein the mind and the importation of messages, the busyness, okay, the busyness of the mind will come to be. It's just that there will be a stillness about this. There's going to be a sort of method, a method of truth, a method of a way of seeing and cutting through things, in order to see why why a particular situation in the past seems like it hasn't worked, but in actuality it has, and that allows for an authentic flair to this reading, a flair of sincerity when it comes to the efforts of others and yourself, that may have seemed fruitless, but in actuality it has produced some form of energetic karma that needs to be exhausted, that needs to be understood through how you contribute, how you truthfully contribute to a situation. Okay, now we're going to look into a more incidental part of this karmic reading. Okay, this has to do with a lot of options in terms of relations or just working with people in general. Okay, and not feeling like any one of them would satisfy you and your desires. There's a futuristic way of doing things that allows for subtlety. It allows for subtlety. Perhaps there is a way of seeing things in terms of truth. Okay, truthful communication, especially, wherein now there's a need for silence and there's a need for Aquarian detachment, Saturnian discipline in this detachment, as well as your Uranian vision quest, your Uranian way of seeing things into the future. Um, I rather like this because there is a detached wisdom. There is a wisdom and a discipline, a restrictive quality that allows for the gestation, or at least the gestation of truth, or the ability to contain truth by having an empty mind or something like this. Okay, meaning that you may be gifted with something in terms of trying to seek out an authentic connection that actually matters, that actually symbolizes something greater, something more legitimate, something more pure. Okay, and if you're patient enough and you do not reach out to the past, especially, there's something about the future that holds a personal gateway, a personal breakthrough in terms of excuse me, in terms of your dealing with relationships, understanding that working with other people in general, there's something about it that seems almost robotic or automated. There's an ability essentially to come up with a sense of propriety, a sense of realization, okay, on the horizon. The best thing is to, even though things may seem inauthentic, or at least like they won't work out, feels like that they haven't worked out in the past, that whole system of not working out is actually a system that still works, even though it may be ruined in some way, shape, or form, or debilitated. So perhaps that's something to consider. And whether or not you're going to be participating in these relationships or these situations, these things and that come into your existence, I think you won't. I think you don't need to. And there's an ability for something great to occur, okay, which is essentially a letting loose of the mind, letting go, losing your mind, if you will, in isolation. It's a very interesting reading. So we shall move now into the Great Mirror, which is the gusto of this reading. And we'll go ahead and get started with that. The Great Mirror is a tool devised by the Order of the Twin Sun in order to see particular karmas that may exist between the energy of Gemini and a significant other. Okay, and in this, there's a possibility to go quite deeply into the relative qualities on a karmic level, and because this month is the theme of exhaustion when it comes to karmas, we'll go ahead and look into this situation, this relationship, however significant or insignificant it may be, is up to you. Please take only what you will and use your discernment. Thank you for tuning in, and please subscribe for additional content in the future. Okay. So this connection that you're dealing with has gotten to a point where you have come to a spiritual attunement, an initiation, and it's as if you do not require much else at all. You desire to perhaps even escape with this person in such a way that would allow for further development of your own attunement when it comes to your own spiritual self-realization. Okay. It does not mean that you're selfish. It does not mean that you would do something in order to produce an effect. What I do see here is that there's something about this connection that wakes you up. It wakes you up. That's the best I could do in terms of how I see you, what they see you as. You may see this person as someone who has a self-sabotaging quality to this situation. It doesn't mean that they're out of control when it comes to this mechanism of self-sabotage, but at the same time, this kind of situation, it requires a lot of self-realization on your part, and the sense of promise on their part. There's a type of contentment when it comes to this situation, which is very light, a very light situation. I think you may be placing a lot of faith into something, something that you feel like you could work on, but it doesn't have to be worked on. There's an element here that is necessary for it to work, and that is patience. At the same time, a great deal of faith or devotional quality you have to this person. But the thing is that because you may be on the path of some form of isolated self sort of exploration, okay, let's call it that. There's something about all of that allows you to become aware of a truth that you have not discovered yet, a voice that you have not discovered yet, but is quite indicative of a futuristic way of doing things when it comes to these types of people that you pull in. There is a process of death and regeneration, like the death of sadness or the death of a melancholy. This person wills melancholy into their existence. That's what they want. There's something about that points to a progression of where you're at. There's a similar almost boredom or a shared melancholy, a shared blueness, the blues within this situation that brings forward the sense that something can be found, something can be had. The thing is that what both of you are willing to be is the Three of Pentacles in reverse. This is symbolic of the fall of Venus as well. It's symbolic of, I would call it, it's something like where you both of you would rebel against any system, any normal system. Your challenge is the Ten of Swords in the reverse. Sort of numbness, losing your mind, losing the ability to logically or rationally come up with proper thoughts or ideas, okay? But that's on the horizon, because once thoughts exhaust themselves, okay, what emerges is a sense of purity when it comes to ideologies or ideas that come out of the ether, that come out of the Akash, that come out of that are gifted to you by a higher consciousness. Okay. The thing is that it would be best to find the sort of stillness in that, and not to be befuddled by it, not to be not to be rejecting all that comes into your life, especially if you are being rewarded or gifted something on your own path that is distinguished from theirs. It's your own. Okay. That is where the qualm is, the quandary, trying to work with others in general as you work on yourself. And how do you do that? For this connection to work, it would require the evolution into the King of Swords. Okay, there's something about this that requires a fair amount of detached observation, wisdom of the ages, as well as truth as your benefactor, in order to make this work. There's something about them that needs to transform this darkness that they have, these dark promises. It needs to transform. Excuse me. Now, when it comes to this, the culmination of this reading, there could be a way of doing things, a system of doing things that people are experimenting with, like you and this person may be experimenting with. And there's a difficulty in understanding some of the more lighter aspects, what is trying to be expressed in all of this. Okay, if you are adopting Aquarian ideals of detachment, self-resolution, Saturnian lengthy periods of time out, as well as time out in order to do some form of mental exploration, purification in that respect. There's an ability to see the light. Eventually it comes in rays through the darkness. It cuts through the darkness. It cuts through the sort of veneer of the mystery of what people may be going through collectively in the experimentation of, let's say, the thought experiment of Aquarian ideology. There's something about it that requires the blessings of Saturn. Okay, and Saturn is painted with a very negative light in Western astrology, especially, and Eastern. But in actuality, the rings of Saturn symbolize some of the more binding qualities in which we can take this gross reality and its various manifestations in which we have shared experiences with others. We can compress these and create and forge our own rings of desire, our own rings of power. So let's just leave that there. I do wish you well. Thank you. Bye-bye.